Well, welcome back to my channel, and if it looks like a Hawk Helium delivery truck blew up and landed right here on my table, I can assure you that is not the case. Today it is all about the Hawk Helium sticks, more specifically the attachment points, straps, ropes, and daisy chains. We're going to cover all the pros and cons of each of those attachment points. I've been using Hawk Helium sticks for quite a few years now, and I'm going to share my experiences and what my opinions are the pros and cons of each of these attachment points on how to get your stick securely mounted to the tree. Hawk Heliums are popular sticks because of their affordability and their lightweight. Add easily customizable to that list, and it makes them very popular for people who like to make these sticks personalized and make them work for their particular situation. I've previously did a video that touches on a lot of the modifications I have made. I'll put a link right up here to that video. There will also be a link down in the description. Feel free to check that out. But today's main point, as I had already mentioned, is the attachment points. The three most popular ways to attach your stick, again, are the strap, the rope, or a daisy chain. Which one's best? Which one should you be using? That is today's subject. So quickly, before we get started here, I want to remind you that safety is your number one priority. You can never be too safe, and you must always keep your safety in mind. No modification is worth risking your life or your health with. Any of these modifications could also void your warranty from the manufacturer. So please be careful and be safe with any modifications that you choose to do. Now today's focus will be on the attachment points for this stick. This does look like a Hawk Helium Mini. It is approximately 20 inches long, a two-step, just like the Hawk Mini. But this stick did start out its life as a full-size stick. I would have cut it down to make it close to a Mini. Actually, I made this stick just before the Minis were released to the public. Before I could get my hands on a Mini, I was making my own Mini. For all weight purposes here, this is really close to what a Mini would be if you ordered it from the factory. It just leaves me with a bunch of extra parts and pieces here when I made my own Mini sticks. Now with that said, most Hawk Heliums now are coming with a strap, and these straps have two loops on either end of the strap that simply fit over the plastic button here that are on the Hawks. And you wrap this around the tree and simply place the loop on the other end of the button and cinch it tight. It's a very good system, and it's a great improvement over the previous system that Hawk had. Some of my oldest Hawk Heliums, when I bought them, came with a mount that had a metal attachment point, and it also had a hook, a metal hook covered in plastic for the other end that would attach into the mounting. That added a lot of extra weight and the potential for noise here, having this metal attachment point where this plastic button is now. Like I said, this system weighed considerably more, so Hawk did a great improvement by going to the strap with simply two loops sewn in either end of the strap. Now, being a DIY kind of guy myself, you're not often happy, as you can see, customizing my own sticks just to begin with. So I wanted to see if there was an improvement over these straps. One way and one thing I looked at and one thing I've used on some of my other Hawk Helium sticks is the rope mod. This modification includes using some static climbing rope, 8mm this is, and this would then attach to a button, wrap around the tree, and then cinches back in and makes a tight attachment point. Another popular reason why you might go with this rope mod is you can customize the length of the rope. You can simply select if you need longer or shorter and for your particular situation and make this rope the exact length you would need. This also may be quicker to attach the stick to the tree with the rope, especially after you practice and become accustomed using this rope. I would say it may be just a tick quicker than using the stock strap. So that's another positive reason you might want to use a rope. And we'll get into some more of the pros and cons as I see them in just a bit. Now the last option we're going to discuss is a daisy chain. Now you might ask, what is a daisy chain? Well, this is simply AmSteel synthetic rope. Now this AmSteel is extremely strong rope. In fact, it has higher ratings than both the static climbing rope and the strap, yet it is a fraction of the size of either of those, and it's extremely lightweight. The daisy chain part comes when you take this AmSteel and you modify it. I simply modified this rope, and you put a loop on the end of your rope here, and then along the length of the rope here, you make a bunch of different loops, and that is called the daisy chain all along here. So no matter which size tree you want to wrap around, there's going to be a corresponding loop that goes over the button here on your stick. One of the biggest selling point with going this way is, as you can see, the size. It is extremely small and lightweight. We'll do a weight comparison here in just a second, but you'll see that the AmSteel stands out far and wide above any of the other ones in both its compact size plus its lightweight. Add to that it's actually stronger weight rating than any of the other ones, and it becomes very popular. Now, is there any downside to using AmSteel? Well, we're going to get into some of the pros and cons here in just a second. But first, let's start out with a weight comparison. So there is quite a bit of weight differences here, and that is one of the reasons why a lot of people choose to modify their sticks and use different strapping or ropes. The original strap here with the 2 loops on the end and the metal buckle that comes with the Hawk Heliums nowadays, that weighs in at 6.2 ounces. That's not too bad considering coming straight from the factory, and that's a far cry better than the original strap that had that metal attachment point and that metal hook covered in plastic. That weighed 10 ounces. So as you can see, the 6.2 ounces considerably cut that 10 ounce mark, and that's a great improvement. Now let's talk about the rope mod here. This is an 8mm static rope, and it is cut at around 6 feet in length. Now this rope, when we weigh it, comes in at 3.9 ounces. So as you can see here, we did nearly cut the weight in half from 6.2 to 3.9. But now let's go to the grand finale, and this over 6 foot of AmSteel daisy chain. This here is not only considerably smaller, you can ball this up just into your palm size, but this 6 foot AmSteel does not even weigh 1 ounce. So if you're looking for the absolute lightest option, AmSteel wins hands down. There isn't even a comparison. When you go from 6.2 down to 3.9 ounces, down to less than 1 ounce with this AmSteel. And again, this AmSteel is so much smaller than either of these 2 options. That makes for when you pack up your sticks and you're wrapping your ropes or your straps around the sticks, this is a much smaller profile to be able to carry in and out of the woods, plus the lightweight savings that you get using AmSteel. Now, as I mentioned, are there any negatives? Why wouldn't everybody go with the AmSteel? Well, there is some negatives when it comes to AmSteel. Now let's talk about some of those cons. As I see it after using the daisy chain, obviously the lightweight, the compactability, and the packability make daisy chain AmSteel a clear winner, but there are some cons after using it. You have to customize and make this yourself. This isn't something readily available. You might be able to do some online searches and find somebody that's going to make this and be willing to sell it to you. But in most cases, you end up making this yourself. The thought of having to make this can look a little complicated, but I can assure you, once you get onto it and you watch enough videos out there in YouTube land, there's a lot of great tutorials on exactly how to make this. But it can be intimidating, so that's a bit of a con with having to make your own daisy chain. The next con with these AmSteel daisy chain, you have these evenly spaced loops that after you wrap your rope around the tree, one of these is going to correspond and line up and attach your stick that way. There's a lot of complaints out there that inevitably when you wrap this rope around the tree, your loop here is going to fall right in between 2 loops on your daisy chain, right on that knot. Now there are ways around that. I simply cock my stick out from the tree, take the standoffs away from the tree and make it sideways, then attach my loop and then bring the standoffs back into the tree. That seems to work very well for me. That's a trick to get away from if your button falls right in between these 2 daisy chains. Another thing I've found, especially on a smaller tree, is to wrap your daisy chain twice around the tree. Make an extra loop, and then one of the holes oftentimes will line up. So that's another quick tip. Also, you can see here at the beginning of my daisy chain, I don't start those small loops until partway down through here, and that's almost 2 feet maybe. And a lot of times if I am on a smaller diameter tree, I simply don't need those daisy chains to go the whole way up here to the end. I can just wrap this daisy chain around twice, and that'll get me into where these actual loops start. So those are some of the cons. Other people feel that the daisy chain might not hold the stick quite as tightly as these other two options. So that would probably be the third con that I would bring up. I have found that maybe is the case. I have never felt unsafe with these daisy chains, or obviously I wouldn't use them. I feel when properly installed, my stick is just as tight as these other options. But I can see that may be a valid point, especially if people don't take the extra second, like I said, to cock the stick to make sure you get the absolute tightest loop possible, or to wrap the daisy chain around twice, especially on smaller trees. So those are some of the cons that people bring up, and some of the things that I have personally experienced using the daisy chain. Now let's move on to the rope mod. Now this rope mod, I had already talked about some of the positive things about it. It's easily customizable to virtually any length you would like. It's climbing static rope, which is fairly easy to find. A lot of people ask where I get this. I would suggest using a reputable climbing store. REI comes to mind. You definitely want quality static climbing rope. You don't want to skimp here with rope that you're unsure of its ratings. Again, your safety is on the line here, so don't skimp. Make sure you get good static rope. Another tip that I would share with you is those safety lines or life lines that are made to hang up at your set stand, maybe a ladder stand or a hang-on, and then you put a safety line there. Almost all of those are made out of 8mm static climbing rope, and they're rather affordable. So if you're looking just for a 30 or 40 foot section of rope and you're not sure where to find it, you can buy one of those lifeline kits and use that rope and cut it down to lengths and get 4, maybe 5 different rope mods for your sticks out of one lifeline. Now another positive with using the rope mod is it's very easy to do. Again, it's that static climbing rope, and it's just an overhand knot here on the end. It takes no special tools to make, and it's not near as intimidating as what the daisy chain would be if you're going to DIY this yourself. Now there are some negatives with the rope, or at least some that I have found. With this Hawk Helium button, I found that using this rope mod does not quite cinch tight enough down inside the stick here. You don't get that tight pinch that you need. So when you do go with the rope mod, I highly suggest switching out the stock buttons here from Hawk with the Versa buttons. Now these Versa buttons have just a little bit different clearances here, and the rope pinches a lot tighter. I would be scared using the rope mod on the existing button. There might be people out there doing it, and possibly if you step your rope size up from 8mm to 10mm, it would work better. I've never personally tried that, but I'm just assuming that may be the case. But again, if you're stepping up to the 10mm rope, you're adding some extra weight, and if one of the reasons you're making these modifications is to save weight, that seems a little bit counterintuitive. So a negative with using the rope is you're probably going to have to switch out your button to a Versa button. Now these aren't extremely expensive, but it is an extra step and a little bit extra expense to swap these out. Now another negative that might come to mind after using the rope mod, it's a little more bulky. It's a lot bulkier than the daisy chain, but I would say it's probably a little bit bulkier even than what the original strap was. That can become an issue when you're packing in or out your sticks and you're wrapping your ropes around the stick. Keep in mind that this round diameter rope does not pinch flat or wrap up quite as nice as a strap or a daisy chain. I find after using the rope mod, it may be the quickest way for me to attach it to the tree. Now I have used the rope mod for quite a few years, and I am quite familiar with using it. I can be extremely efficient when attaching the stick to the tree using the rope mod. The daisy chain for me takes just an extra second or two versus the rope mod, just because I'm trying to find the right loop, making sure that's tight. With this rope, there's no finding a correct loop. You simply wrap it around the tree, pull it tight, and cinch it down into that button, and you're done. I make a half hitch then yet, just as an added precaution, but it's extremely quick, and I put that down as a positive for the rope mod. The last thing we're going to talk about is the original strap that came with it. You might choose just to leave this strap on. Yes, it weighs more than any of the other options here, but there's no modifications needed, and you're going to stay within the factory warranty and the factory specs if that is a concern for you. This newest design with the 2 loops is actually, like I said, the best design that Hawk has had yet. Now, one obvious con with this strap is the metal buckle. Now, that is what adds to the weight of this system, but it also adds to the noise. You have a great potential of metal on metal contact when you have this metal buckle. It's going to lead you to have to try and cover this with silent stripping of some sort, maybe a rubber cover, something to help cut down the noise. That's a big negative when it comes to this original system. Another negative with this factory strap system, it's set at a designated length. There's no way to change that. So especially if you're looking to climb larger trees, you might find you're going to run out of strap. There's just simply not enough strap there, and it's going to limit you on which trees you can climb. So that can be a negative to consider if you're using the original strap system. Now, one positive is a lot of people feel they can get tighter, make the sticks tighter to the tree with this type of buckle versus any of the other systems. There's people that just feel this is the tightest way still. I honestly don't find that to be the case. You definitely can cinch this down and make the stick very secure, but I feel I can do the same thing with the other systems, or obviously I wouldn't use either one of the daisy chain or the rope mod. So for me, that isn't necessarily a positive like some people feel it is, but I can see their point in just being able to grab that tag end of the strap and pulling for all you're worth. So those are my thoughts and opinions after using these 3 attachment points. I've personally used each and every one of these, and if it comes down to a clear-cut winner, I would say there really isn't one. As I pointed out, there are many pros and cons to each one of these, and it really depends on your particular situation. Another thing I want to point out is these attachment points don't have to be used simply with Hawk Helium. Many of the sticks use this button type attachment, so these can cross over to different brands of climbing sticks. Now, if you're just looking for the absolute most lightweight option, clearly the Amsteel is the winner there. You just cannot beat its compact size and how lightweight this is. But another negative I wanted to point out with that lightweight Amsteel is it can be a little difficult to throw around the tree, especially with a larger tree. You just simply don't have weight or momentum. It's like trying to throw a piece of yarn almost around the tree. That can be difficult, especially at night. Both the rope and the strap seem to have a little bit more momentum there, a little bit more rigidity. I would say the rope's probably the easiest of the 3 to throw around the tree. The strap does have that loop at the end, but again, not a lot of weight there. But by far the Amsteel is the hardest to get that thrown around the tree. Now, if you can simply reach around the tree with your arms and grab it, that's not a case at all. But if you're looking to climb a bigger tree, throwing the Amsteel around and catching it can be a bit of a chore, so you can keep that in mind. So what are your thoughts and opinions? Have you used different attachment methods? I'd love to hear any comments you might have, or maybe you have questions. You can put them down in the comment section. I love hearing from you, and I try and get back to each and every one of you. It is just about time to put these to work out into the woods. I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.